Hi, it's Jared from Strong Roots Farm. Today we're going to talk about unrolling hay. And so I get this question all the time. I just thought I'd go ahead and make a quick video of it. And so unrolled hay, when you unroll the hay across the pasture like this, the question is always asked, doesn't it create a lot of waste? We're going to talk about it, and I'll actually show you where we've been and show you the amount of waste on the ground after this. Let's coming up, stick around. All right, so if you're not familiar with unrolling hay, just a quick overview. In the fall, especially as we get towards the winter, grass goes dormant, it dies down, so we start to eat a little bit more hay. Hay is stored grass. I only buy first cutting grass, which is usually spring cut, sometime May, June here in Ohio. Most people cut their first cut. I do that because I think it has the most nutrition of all the cuts. But as I've looked at other hay, some of that later fall cutting stuff tends to have a little more legumes. So if your hay on your ground is good, as far as the protein, carb levels in it, legumes to grasses and those kind of things, and sugars, if it's good hay in the spring, I think is the best hay. But if you don't have great ground, your hay will tend to be better. You just don't get as much of it on the second or third cut. Anyways, so I buy first cut hay, and that's what my cows live off of through the winter if we don't have enough grass. So now it's mid-October, actually the end of October here. Halloween is this week, and we're still out here grazing. I have a good 2 months worth of grass. Now, I could not feed hay and just go eat that grass. But what I'm choosing to do is to eat some grass and unroll hay at the same time. One, prolonging the grass that I have stockpiled, as they say, for me, and allowing them to eat it with the hay so that we can go longer. But I'm also giving them a little of both. So if the nutrition of the grass is dormant enough that it's not as highly as nutrition as perhaps the hay, they'll have a better range of nutrition and a better variety in their diet. But you can see, they just walked into this paddock. They're eating the green grass, of course, instead of the hay. And as I've looked at studies, let's talk about that. So when does hay become more beneficial than grass? So this is going to vary on the location. It's going to vary on the study and, of course, all those kind of things. I've heard people say you can make a study say whatever you want, or a survey say whatever you want. If it's an honest survey or honest study, you know, it's going to show truth. And so I've read multiple studies about hay versus grass versus stockpiled grass. So as the grass that's in our ground here loses nutrition, so is the hay. The longer the hay sits, it's losing nutrition, but it's at a much slower rate because it's stored in this round bale. So there comes a point when those two things cross, when my level of hay goes slowly down and my level of grass, which has higher nutrition, dives. When those points cross, really that's when you should start feeding hay. I choose to do them both at the same time because I don't have all these meters and test kit, and I'm not very good at it. To be frank, I'm not an 80-year-old experienced farmer that can just look at grass and tell you, oh, it's that. I don't have that skill and experience. I've only been doing this 15 years as far as with cattle. Been farming all my life, but cattle. So what I choose to do is feed them both at the same time and let the cows tell me what the truth is. So when is that point? When are these studies telling us that stored hay is better than grass that is laid dormant or stockpiled for us? Pretty much, I'm in the Midwest, Ohio, Southern Ohio. Pretty much every study I've read from this area says sometime around January. Usually after several inches of snow, usually after 7 days below freezing or weeks below freezing, the dormant grass that is laid will start the nutritional level depending on the quality of the hay, the quality of the farm, the genetics of the cows, perhaps even sometimes, but we're really talking about nutrition of hay. It's around January here. And that's kind of where I've settled, but I'm starting to feed hay because I want to get all my stockpile grass. I want to get through January on stockpiled grass. So you can see we've unrolled some hay for them today. We've talked about this. They're eating the green grass. How much of this hay are they going to waste? Do I run the risk of wasting this roll of hay? This roll of hay was from a farm that was really good hay. It's about 40 to 50% clovers and alfalfas. So it's really high in protein. And our grasses out here that are green don't have a ton of protein. There's not a, right here, there's some clover in through here. And there's some more clover up here on this ridge. But it's predominantly sugary grasses out here that's left. So it's a good mix. But you can see she's walking through it right there. So some of that is going to be wasted. Let's go to a field over here where they were yesterday, and we'll look at the actual waste. So I was about to mention over there that the hay that was really good that I bought hay from 2 different farmers, and I paid 2 different prices. For my good grass hay that had 30% clover, the other bales that I've been unrolling, which is what you're going to see here, I paid $35, I think, for, and they were 4x5s. These clover bales, which are 5x5s, were $45. Not a big difference because of the size, but so that you're understanding how much round bales here in Ohio are costing me. And this is what's left. So as we walk down through here, it's just remnants. It's even less if I bush hog. So if there was 2-foot grass and I came through with a bush hog, there would be more remnants left on the ground than what they're leaving behind in this round bale that I unrolled. Now, as we get up here, there's one specific spot here where they've left a clump, and this will happen from time to time. So you can see they've left this clump, and it's because they either laid down here, which is what it looks like. It looks like some cow decided to lay there and then poop all around here, so nobody wants to eat where she slept and pooped. And that happens from time to time. But here's the way I look at it. This grass, this hay that's left, the remnant, has done 2 things for me. One, it's allowed me to stay in this paddock longer and create this wide spread of manure that cost me 0 diesel fuel. I didn't have to collect this in a barn and no hours of work and spread this on my field. So there's good coverage of manure everywhere because they were able to stay in this paddock a little longer here in the fall, and this manure will go down into the ground and then will continue to feed in the winter down into the soil, and it'll kind of be stored. Microbes aren't very active in the winter from what I understand. No soil scientist here. I don't have a degree in agronomy, but what I've read, what I've studied, what I've listened to, it's going to become mostly dormant. But in the spring, I notice a huge difference where I have bale grazed or unrolled hay in the past. The grass is greener in the spring because these nutrients are being put down now. So that's one benefit right there. The second benefit is this grass that's here is also going to break down. The remnants of that round bale are going to break down with freezes and thaws and snow and those things. And whatever life is left in the soil now that hasn't gone dormant yet is going to be able to eat that. And if they don't, when the spring comes and everything gets booming, it will quickly go away. It will hold moisture to help grass go better in the spring if it's dry, which we're in a drought right now. So it tells me that in the spring, it's still going to be a little dry. We don't have enough water storage in our ground right now to even get us into spring. So unless we start getting a bunch of rains, I'm going to need everything that can collect moisture to be here. So it's going to break down. It's going to feed my soil. So what I've done is at one point in time, I unrolled a round bale into a section, kept them in it till they ate it. It looked just like this. Then I took and I tried to rake it with a hay rake, right? And you rake it up. And then I thought, okay, if I baled this with square bales, and they estimate that a round bale has 20 square bales in it or whatever, I figured there was 1 to 2 square bales of hay left. So let's just say 8 to 10% of that round bale was wasted, or, wasted in quotes there. It's going to feed all those things. Is it really a waste? We can argue that. But I lost, instead of feeding, 8 to 10%. So essentially, throughout a year, I'm going to lose 10 round bales. I'm going to leave 10 round bales worth of hay out here because I'm going to feed 100 round bales this winter. In a sense, if I fed the same as last. Now ask yourself, if you're bale grazing, putting a bale down, leaving it, eating around it, how much gets wasted? Or if you're feeding in rings at a barn lot, how much gets wasted? How much do you spread? And I've done both. I've done bale grazing. I fed all my hay one winter only at a barn feeder, went through the grass, and I've done it like that. And I will tell you that I think it's about the same, if not less, on the unrolling. It seems like that they'll eat down those hay feeders, and there's that, bottom 6 inches of muck and stuff that either gets rained on if you have an open house, or I fed in a barn even, and they just don't eat it. And so you end up taking that over and throwing it in as bedding, and then we justify it and say, well, it's not a waste because we're using it as bedding, and then we're spreading it on the fields. This is the same thing. So as far as amount of hay that I'm wasting cost by leaving, to me, it's a wash one way or the other. But my benefit is the manure's where I want it, when I want it. The remnants is on the ground when I want it, before the snow. I don't have as much time in spreading manure in the spring. I still will spread some because I'm still going to feed some in the barn. But it's out here, right? It's already out here with the animals. And I'm helping my nutrition in the fall when I'm not perfect at doing this. So it's out there for me and the cattle to eat, for me to monitor them and let them tell me what they need nutritionally. Now, this is an argument. I mean, I'm not going to solve it with this video. In fact, I guarantee you I'm going to have negative comments, and that's fine. And if you have positive comments, if you agree with me, please let me know. Kind of support me, because I guarantee you the other people are going to comment. But there's also another way to look at this. That hay, that bale, if it was broke down into nutrients, into your NPK, it's going to have a value. Whether it's good hay or bad hay or whatever, it has some value. And the better the hay is, the better the values are. So if you took this, sent it to a lab, measured it, it's going to tell you your hay has this quality that can equate to this NPK. Now remember, I'm going to waste $450 or 10 round bales, essentially, maybe $400, depending on which round bales I lose, worth of hay. That $400 to $450 has an NPK value of this amount. And I would challenge you, if you took those amounts and did the math all the way out and said, okay, that's this many pounds of nitrogen, this many pounds of potash, all those things, could you buy that synthetically with $450 at the price that we're paying today and spread it on your field? And so I've never done this math, but I've seen other guys do it to a point that I don't feel like I'm going to delve into it myself. I've seen this equation ran on other people's farms and seminars and things, and I can't even provide it close. It's less than half. Okay, the cost of fertilizer is more than twice the cost of unrolling hay, because the poundage is in there, and this did not come from my farm. I bought in these nutrients. So if you're a guy that likes to down talk this, and I don't want to be mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but I've heard guys be angry against this and say this doesn't work and naysay this conversation and say this is a waste. If you down talk this and then you go out yourself and you're feeding in bunkers or whatever you're doing, and you waste what you think is wasting less hay, but then you have to spend the money on synthetic fertilizers, or you are spending that money on synthetic fertilizers and putting on your pasture, at the end of the day, who is ahead? So this is an argument that I'm probably never going to solve and stop, especially with one YouTube video with 500 people watching it, or whoever's going to watch. But it's worth it to me. And that's why I've chose to unroll hay, why I've chose to feed in the pasture as long as I can, and I'm okay with this remnants. The other thing for me is the time savings of spreading manure, cleaning out barns, all those kind of things, because I'm still a small farmer. I only have 30 acres here and then 21 leased over there. And there's only 7 acres of that that's going to be pasture. So that's a new farm that we're getting. And so there's only 7 acres there that's going to help me. So I'm going to have about 36 acres total of pasture, and I still work a job. So time savings to me, when I come home, the amount of time spent spreading manure could be doing something else. And so this is another time savings for me. You could argue that I'm spending time unrolling hay. That is true, but I literally unrolled that in 2 minutes, and I had to come out to move cattle anyways. and I only unroll it when I move them. So for me, it's a way time savings. It's a big time savings from cleaning out barns and the mess, and then if you don't have a barn, having to build a barn and use that philosophy. So for me, unrolling hay is a huge benefit. But there you have it. I hope I didn't talk too much. I get that comment a lot. It's part of who I am, I guess, maybe. But I hope this helps you, and hopes you, if you're thinking about unrolling, you can see what you're going to waste. You can calculate, if I unroll, I'm going to waste 10% of my bales, but I'm going to tell you, in feeders and hay rings and those things, I think it's pretty near the same amount of waste that gets left at the end of my hay rings. Even if it's half of that, the time savings and all the other stuff that I go through, it's very much worth it to me to unroll hay like this. Appreciate you guys watching. Till next time.